Hey everybody, Jay here, and welcome to My Favorite Subject. It's a series about me, my interests, my life, and mostly my transgender journey. I will point out I'm not an expert on any of these subjects, it's just my own opinions and my own personal experiences. So I started this off by doing a series of questions, 30 questions that come from the Transgender Day of Visibility, which was on March 31st. And I answered some of these online, and I felt I should answer more of them. So we're moving on with number 4. How did I pick my name? Well, I actually have two names. Two different names that I chose to start using as part of my, what I call, transgender renaissance. We have Jasmine, and we have Jay. So Jasmine is a feminine name that I've just always really liked. I honestly don't remember where I first heard it. I mean, Aladdin comes to mind, but I may have heard it other places. But I do know that I named a character in one of my superhero stories Jasmine, and she was a secretary, and she was going to develop superpowers, and she was going to become more of a character. I didn't really have a main character. I jumped around to a lot of different characters, but she was one of them, and I really liked her. Later, when I got my first laptop, I actually named it Jasmine, and the name just kind of always stuck with me. I just always really had an appreciation for it. So, when I started my transgender journey and thought that I would have to make a full legal transition to a feminine lifestyle and physically change everything, I started thinking about what name I would want to go by. I don't dislike my natural name, which is James, but I thought, I could go with Jasmine, which is a name I always liked, and I get to keep my initials. There was even a time that I thought of, I didn't want to sacrifice my middle name, which is Roman, named for my mother's father, and I thought I could go with Jasmine Romanov Stilapek as a way of saving it, and then a little nod to Marvel, Black Widow. It was a silly idea. Additionally, around this time, I started cosplaying. And when I created my cosplay page, and I was like, what should I call myself? What cool name can I use? And I went with Jasmine Cosplays. So in preparation for what I thought was going to be a complete name change, at work, I started going by the nickname Jay. I'd just gotten out of the military. I'd actually just recently moved to another building where not everybody knew me by my original name, or they knew me by my last name only. So it was easy when meeting a bunch of new people to say, just call me Jay. And that's how they met me, and that's how they could remember me. And I felt that when I made the transition from James to Jasmine, they could just keep calling me Jay, and it would make it easier for people to refer to me, and it would be a smoother transition for them mentally. So as things went on, and I started going to counseling, and I started going to support groups, and I learned more about being non-binary and gender fluidity, and the more time I spent cosplaying, both in femme and out of femme, or femizenting and mascuzenting, the more I started to realize that I was more non-binary, and I didn't want to make a complete physical and legal change in my name. I don't hate my name. I'm proud of my name. It was named after my father and my mother's father, and I don't want to change that. I don't want to lose that. But Jay has worked both in femme and masculine, so it works both ways. And I decided I will just go to the DMV, get my driver's license changed so that I now have an X instead of an F or an M. I use Mix instead of Mr. or Miss at work, and I live this sometimes femizenting, sometimes mascuzenting, non-binary, gender fluid lifestyle, and it works for me. It makes me happy, and I am able to use all of the names when necessary. So I don't consider James to be my dead name. I'm not ashamed of it, and I still use it. It's still my legal name, and that will remain so. I'm not going to change my birth certificate. I'm not going to change my driver's license. I don't ask people I don't dissuade people from using it. And one time I was at my endocrinologist, and somebody came out and called for James, and the gentleman next to me stood up and went back, and then they came out again and asked for another James, and I'd heard a man next to me who'd been filling out some paperwork, and his wife called him James, And he and I both looked up, and I was femisenting at the time, and we both kind of went, which one? And he looked at me kind of funny, and they were like, oh, this other name. And it wasn't either one of us. So they went back, and it turns out that the first James that they had called for was supposed to be me, but the guy next to me just heard his name and jumped up before they could clarify with the last name. So a little funny moment there. So I'm perfectly happy with my legal name, James Roman Stilipek. I don't intend on changing it, and it continues to be my legal name. Jay is a nice in-between nickname, and some people call me Jazz because they already know somebody named Jay, or they first met me in cosplay as Jasmine. So I'm okay with Jay or Jazz. And Jasmine really is just my cosplay stage name. When it comes down to it, I think it's most important to remember that nicknames and names are personal preferences. I know plenty of cisgender people who don't like their first name, and they go by their middle name, or they insist on a nickname, or something completely different. And that is just a matter of personal choice, and there's nothing wrong with it. You don't have to be transgender to not like your name or to want it changed. Now, for everyone else out there who suddenly has to start referring to people by a different name, it can take some time to rewrite your brain and fix those memories to acknowledge people by their preferred name, but to do anything other than refer to them the way they want to be referred to is disrespectful. And if you want them to continue being your friend, you should at least make the effort. Well, that's it for this episode. Thank you for watching. If you have any further questions or clarifications, just drop them in the comments. Please like or share or subscribe if you want to see more, because I've got 26 more questions to go, and then who knows after that. Thank you for sticking around. I'm Jay, and I love you, and take care.